Welcome to MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers. Each week, I talk with industry leaders on both marketing and entrepreneurship and business to find out all about their wins and failures in marketing right now. We'll hear all about successes and wins and what's fallen flat so that you can take that knowledge and implement it. Learn from the best, from the folks who've been there and done it all, as well as people just like you. Thanks for joining us. This is MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers.
And welcome to this week's episode of MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers, where we bring you experts of marketing from the industry, as well as speak to other business owners just like you who are eking it out in the marketplace, trying to get along alongside all the other many things that business owners have to deal with, right, Barney?
That's right. Yeah, thanks very much, Paul. Thanks for inviting me on.
A significant chunk of people who got some amazing experience in the early days of Google when it was just first started to gather its ground. And I don't know anybody that hadn't done incredibly well for themselves as a result of kind of starting off there. First up, before we get into anything, I'm just looking at your background there, Barney, and I noticed that you've got the same Land Rover Technics model that I built. I love Lego.
Yeah,
I love Technics. Yeah, it's a beautiful model. It's a beautiful model. My son, my 6-year-old,
it's a great one,
loves
isn't it? Yeah.
breaking mine. He loves taking the bits out and making me figure out how to fix it again. He's maybe a real engineer.
Yeah.
Have you been a Lego enthusiast for long?
Yeah, all my life, really. I guess I don't know when my parents first brought me some Lego. Probably when I was pretty young. I think what I had that's different from today is that back in the day, this would have been, I guess, the 80s or 70s, 80s. You used to have more sort of Lego sets, so you get like just a set of Lego with lots of different bits, and it wouldn't necessarily make anything specific. You might have a few ideas in like a big book. But it wasn't like these days.
It's funny though, like I come across a lot of experienced marketers who swear by their Lego collection and absolutely adore their Lego collection. Well, it's not unique to like Lego. Like lots of people like Lego, but I just find it interesting. I think there's probably more Lego enthusiasts in the marketing community than anywhere else, and I think that speaks volumes to creativity and problem solving. Right? Like, let's be honest, I've got those same kits. Right? Like I've got a ton of bricks in my son's room. We've got something like 40,000 bricks in the house. But they're all bricks. There are no interesting bricks amongst them. It's all 4x2s, 2x2s, 2x1s, slim lines, all those sort of things. And you just literally had to lose a lot of imagination as you were playing with things. So
I used to make a lot of spaceships when I was younger. That was a big thing, definitely. I remember doing that. And those classic spaceship sets. I think they've made them again, haven't they? I think
they have
re-released some of those classic kind of astronaut with their little planet on them. Yeah, I used to like those. I used to make my own spaceships all the time, yeah.
It's fantastic. I love it. And nobody could ever afford the base plates to put them on. So you just had to kind of build it on the carpet and then everything would fall over all the time. Fantastic. So I guess moving back to a more professional sense, as opposed to just hobbies, you've got over 20 years of digital marketing, some of which, as we said, kind of involves time in Google. What has been your experience of that journey? Like, how has the digital marketing landscape changed over that time? I know that's a big question, so maybe go with an overview version of like your favourite parts of that.
This is in the kind of early 2000s, as I've said. This was the time that might be called the first internet bubble. So at this time, internet was just kind of kicking off. You know, you would start to see websites. You get the likes of, I don't know, like Guinness or a big company might have a website, but it wouldn't really do anything. It would just have a picture of a pint of Guinness or something, stuff like that. It was really basic stuff. Lots of people would have home pages. The idea at the time would be that you'd go onto like Geocities or some kind of free place and you'd have a home page and it would just say, this is my house and I like to do this. And it might be just a one-pager about you and your family. And you might write a blog as well. So there's all these kind of very basic kind of websites that you would remember if you've been around for the beginning of the web, and you'd have maybe AOL kind of dial-up, and we were just getting into broadband at this time.
Right?
Yeah, the Alta Vista, exactly.
Hi, and thanks for joining us for the show. I'm Paul, founder here at Javelin Content Management. We specialize in getting ideas out of your head, down into video, and out to your social media through repurposing and efficient content strategies. If you want to find out how you can convert your ideal audience into paying customers, reach out to us, javelincontent.com, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode.
Yeah, so I work for one of those kind of companies. So I work for a company I went to London, got a job at a company called LookSmart, which were like the equivalent of Excite, Alta Vista, all of these kind of search engines, or Yahoo was a big one. Yahoo was the big web directory. And this was exactly the same principles. So it was a directory, and it sounds stupid now, but basically it had about 120,000, 110,000 URLs in this directory, which had all been found by human editors. There was a team of editors. I was responsible for work and money. So that was my section of the website, a bit like a newspaper, I guess, the different sections of the website. Yeah, I had to go around finding websites to do with work and money, basically. So I remember once I spent about maybe it was 6 months, but several months just finding all the IFAs in the whole of the UK and building up a whole directory of them. And obviously these days that just sounds a bit, kind of ridiculous. The idea that you'd go through the web, the web was small enough then that people would actually attempt to go around it and write reviews of individual websites. And Google was just kind of coming out this time, perhaps in the dorm room in Stanford and in California. It was a bit like AI now. Everyone was super excited about the internet. Loads of money was coming into startups. A lot of these startups were going bust. You had notorious companies like Boo.com, who kind of got loads of investment and went out of business in a couple of years, and all these other things happening. Eventually, this company itself, they had a massive deal with Microsoft to provide results to Microsoft, and that was lost, a global deal that was lost, and then the company basically went out of business kind of about 6 months after that. So we were all made redundant, which was kind of a mixed blessing. It wasn't a good thing, obviously, at the time, but it was a mixed blessing because within a year or so, I spent a bit of time living in France, but that's a separate conversation. But after a year in France, I ended up coming back to the UK and got a job at Google. So Google was just kind of coming through. So they had a search engine that was looking at all these links and figuring out who had the best website or who had the best website for a particular search that you'd have. And it wasn't human editors. It was much better than that. It would just go away, use the spiders, use the same technology that Google uses today, sort of 20 years on, finds a load of websites automatically and then puts them into the index and then gives them to you. So I joined Google 2005 in London. There was about 100 or less than 100 people then working for Google in the UK. In terms of how the internet was changing, Google, when I joined, it was called AdWords. It wasn't Google Ads. It was just search ads when I joined. Google acquired YouTube while I was there. So I think that was 2006 or that kind of time. Google bought YouTube, which was this big emerging video platform. Video was starting to become a thing on the web at the time. So it'd be very text-based and image-based. To this point, we're getting faster connections, you're getting broadband. So that enables you to have videos. Again, around the same time, the iPhone came out. I remember a Google executive, a very senior one, coming into the office from America and showing it his iPhone. And everyone was like, well, the iPhone, we've heard about the iPhone. Maybe, I don't think the iPhone had even maybe come out in the UK at that time, or it was very early days. No, this guy, look at this iPhone, and he was letting her check it out as well, which I thought was dangerous. But anyway, it was the days when products when I first joined, Gmail had just come out. So unless you knew someone at Google, you couldn't get an invite to it. It was just, kind of going out gradually. Obviously, eventually it was rolled out like it is today, just free to use. Things like Google Earth were launching. I was talking to someone about this the other day, and I was saying that what it was like was that basically a big product would launch like Google Earth or Gmail or something like that. And basically you get a massive crate of T-shirts would arrive, and then everyone would just descend on them in the UK offices to grab a T-shirt, and it'd be a massive free-for-all to get your T-shirt. So I've got various probably T-shirts that don't really fit me anymore that say Google Earth on them and stuff like that. I used to actually work on T-Mobile as a client when that was launched, so it was a very exciting time. I thought of the secrecy about that. It was called, I think the code name was Killer, actually, in the UK for that, because it's a very super secret thing. And
what an amazing project to be working on. What are you working on? We're working on Killer.
Killer, yeah, just Killer. Be careful. I could tell you about it, but I'd have to kill you.
Don't ask any questions.
So it was a super exciting time, all these innovations. Also, these phones came out, people started using smartphones, they could suddenly have the internet on their phone, which was a new thing. You could watch videos, you could do all these sorts of things you couldn't do before. And then Google itself, just towards the end of the time, so I was Google to 2012, and I left just around this time of the Olympic. For the last couple of years I was there, I was kind of mobile ads specialist, and I was helping to kind of push forward mobile advertising to our clients. And so I did my normal job, but I did that as a kind of side project. And we were just trying to get people to do the mobile advertising at the time. It was kind of like a tick box. So you'd be doing your normal desktop advertising. You kind of tick to show your ads on mobile as well. And a lot of people weren't, even the salespeople weren't that bothered about it. It was only a small percentage, like 4% or 5%. So everyone was like, oh, I can't bother that. I'm just going to focus on this bigger revenue generating thing. But obviously it became a huge thing. And now a lot of the time, mobile traffic will be much bigger than desktop traffic for a lot of the websites and advertisers, probably mostly, depending on what it is. So yeah, that quickly kind of overtook, and then now it's just part of the advertising. You don't tick a special box. It's just part of what you put your ads on when you're, doing display advertising or search advertising. So those are probably the biggest things, the kind of video, smartphones, mobile advertising, and just to move away from when I started, it was all about probably buying display ads on CPMs, and now obviously PPC and social media emerged.
Fascinating. You've literally, like, there's so many memories for me there in pretty much everything that you've said, and kind of lots of stuff resonating. We had a guest on a couple of weeks back, Chris Reeve, who is from Reeve Social Media. They do organic social media copy and social media strategy, and he specifically called out, look, we don't do paid. We don't do paid because it's super niche, and everybody thinks you're a social media company or you're a digital marketing company and you can do everything, right? And they're wrong. So it's fascinating for me to then have you on from the other side of things, but not just to be a digital marketing and a paid media expert, but somebody who's been there since the beginning of all of this and has kind of not just been part of it, but obviously had inputs on a lot of the things that have formed and gone on as time moved on. Talk me through Bluebell Marketing then, Barney. Why Bluebell for a start, and how are you guys different?
Yeah, so Bluebell Marketing. So but there's a bit of an accidental entrepreneur. I'm not going to claim that has some like master plans to take over the world, because pretty much I left Google and then I kind of fell into it. I was a bit kind of looking to do something a bit different, just to make a bit of money. I started freelancing, and then after a while I was like, this is actually quite good working for yourself. It's starting to work out for me. I was getting some sort of interest. Why Bluebell Marketing? So I thought what I wanted was something which has some local resonance. I live in East Grinstead in Sussex, which has the Bluebell Railway, which you may or may not have heard of, which is like a heritage steam railway. And I wanted something friendly as well. So I felt at the time that a lot of digital companies and agencies would want to have a really cool name, like really cool, like Super Steel Agency or Silver Fox Agency or something like that. Some kind of really cool sounding name to make them sound really techie. And I actually wanted something that was a bit more friendly and kind of approachable. So that's why I thought that would be fun to have that. So I wanted to do Google ads, just cover Google. I knew that would be something, that people want and that I knew something about. I probably fell down into the trap, which I'm sure a lot of people do when they start their own business, of maybe trying to do too many things, like we were saying. I was like, well, I've just got to do everything. I've got to be one person. I've got a one-person agency. So anything to do with digital marketing, I'm going to have to do it, teach myself how to do it. I was doing Facebook advertising, all sorts of social media advertising. But pretty much since those days, I was doing organic social media as well. I don't really do organic social media anymore. I shouldn't really say this, but I don't really do Facebook or Instagram anymore. Most of my clients are kind of a bit more B2B focused. So not really asked for that much. So I might do paid LinkedIn. So I do LinkedIn quite often. I think people should admit to this. It's certainly for one person or a small agency. Very, very difficult to be really good at, say, Google Ads and Meta. Meta is an absolute beast. It's really awkward to use in the back end. Sorry, Meta, but it is. And really clunky and difficult. It changes all the time. It's got lots of different options. So Google Ads is a bit easier to use. It has a lot of options, but it's not. I don't find it difficult. But it's hard to be good at this and good at this, I would say. And maybe if you've got someone who tells you they can do 10 different digital marketing things, they are lying, because they'll do one really well, maybe three really well, but they won't be doing the other 7 really well because they just won't be able to keep on top of it. And I'd much prefer to be kind of expert level at things. So I've really focused on Google Ads, particularly especially the last 4 or 5 years. SEO sometimes as well, because they obviously go naturally quite well together. But as I say, I'm not trying to do everything anymore, which is, it was a bit of a beginner's mistake to try and do that, I think. But it's an obvious one. You just try and help as many people as possible because you're just trying to get business.
Perfect. So that's a really interesting answer. And like as somebody who lives literally down the road from George Stephenson's old house, and who has a son who's obsessed with railways and locomotives and steam engines in particular, and I know well the Bluebell Railway. So question then, with all of that extensive experience in digital marketing, what would you say are the most critical parts of a successful digital marketing strategy for businesses who are out there listening today?
One thing I would say is that doing Google Ads or Facebook or anything is not a strategy. So it's just a tactic. It's one thing that you could do. Maybe if you don't have marketing resource or you're limited, then maybe you need to take a bit of a step back and just figure out your marketing strategy overall. And, go back to basics. Think about, what's your audience? Who are you trying to reach? understand your product offering, understand your place in the market, understand your competition, all these kind of things, all these kind of marketing fundamentals are probably the thing to understand first. Now, once you've done all that work and you've got your brand and you kind of got a very clear picture, the tactics that you want to use to achieve the goals that you set out in the strategy will be ones that might include Google Ads, or might include social media advertising, or might include, creating content for SEO or whatever it is, creating a podcast, creating videos, whatever it is. But you should always have, if you've got that kind of strategy in mind, that kind of talks to everything else that you might do, and you've got somewhere to kind of test it against, and you've got somewhere to make decisions, because marketing, like anything really, is about making decisions, right? So it's about what you're going to do, but it's about what you're not going to do. So you need to have some sort of reason for acting in a certain way. With social media, for example, people are like, well, I want to be on social media. So maybe they're going to sign up and put their company on Twitter, on Instagram, on Pinterest, on LinkedIn. But A, that's not practical. You should choose, a couple of different platforms. And B, where are your audience? Your audience are not going to be necessarily as much on all those places. If you've got a B2C audience, maybe they're going to be on Facebook or Instagram. Got a youthful audience, maybe they'll be on TikTok and Instagram. If you've got maybe a female-centric audience, maybe they'll be on Pinterest. There's all sorts of different things. If it's a B2B, it's LinkedIn is the place, or maybe Twitter. Maybe not everyone likes Twitter anymore, but LinkedIn certainly. So you've got to make decisions, and you've got to have almost like an intellectual reason to make those decisions, and you've got to have a plan. So that's the first thing.
I think it's interesting. You've echoed the thoughts of a lot of our other guests. We're episode 22, I think, now of this show. So we've been going a little while now, and the resounding theme, and I can just feel business owners around the world listening to this or watching this and rolling their eyes and tutting at me. It's do the basics. It's get your messaging right, get your brand right, know your audience, know in depth who you want to reach and how you want to reach them, and what their thoughts, worries, concerns, everything about them, as much detail as you can before you try and do anything else. And yes, that is probably going to delay starting a business. It might cause you a headache at the beginning, and it's a lot of hard work. But the resounding advice from all our guests has been like, that is the one thing that will separate you from your competition, set you apart, differentiate you, and make you successful. If you skip that bit, it's like eating a frog, right? Like, just get it eaten. Eat it in one bite, get it eaten, do it first, and then you can get on and have fun with marketing. He says, definitely with inverted commas. If you're listening to this on the audio, it's definitely inverted commas for marketing fun, because it could be anything but, I find. Question then, so, with all that experience in the history of things and where we're at now, what's exciting you for the future of digital marketing? What's one thing that you're looking forward to happening, or a trend you can see coming up that is going to really fundamentally change how people do things?
I think there's some things, I'm not going to pretend I'm necessarily excited about them, but there's some quite major things coming. I'm probably more scared by them, in fact, if I'm going to be honest. And everyone should be scared of this, because one of the sort of founding principles of digital marketing is using cookies, right, to track what people are doing on their computers, who they are, where they've been before. I'm sure most of the people listening to this podcast understand what I'm talking about. You go on to Marks and Spencer's and you look at a nice green jumper, and that green jumper follows you around the internet suspiciously. You didn't buy it, it follows you around, says, buy me, buy it. Here's a blue one as well. It's very similar. It's quite annoying. So it does that. So that's all based off seeing cookies. And that's the way that all kind of conversion tracking is done. It identifies you, tells the person that you bought something off their website, tells Google or whoever you're advertising with that that's happened, and it matches it all together so that you can report back to your advertiser that they've sold so many things from the advertising. That's what's changing. So Google, in its wisdom, and everyone really, due to sort of privacy concerns, I guess, there have been various scandals in the past, Cambridge Analytica, all these different things that happened, and people have become concerned. People like the EU have become concerned that we're tracking people a bit too much on digital, and getting too much sort of precise information about what their behaviour, and obviously people themselves don't necessarily like that. There is obviously this trade-off that you talk about. If you're using a free service, then you're the product, your data is the product, which is true to a certain extent. You're giving up data to Google or Facebook in return for using a free, really useful service that you perhaps enjoy and find useful in your job or in your leisure life. but in return they're showing you some ads which may well be targeted based on your behavior, both on their website, but potentially also going across the internet on a network of sort of affiliated websites to Google or to Facebook or to other social media platforms or digital providers. So there's a kind of trade-off there. I would say, and I'm obviously massively biased, I would say what's worse than targeted ads? The answer to that is untargeted ads, because you're always going to have ads because these are services which are free. They have to monetize somehow. So unless we change the fundamental way the internet works today, which I'm not saying we should do that, maybe we should. If we all subscribe to Google, or you all subscribe to all our newspapers that we read, our the football websites or whatever it is, if we all just paid a subscription or a micro payment every time we read an article, then we wouldn't have to have all these troublesome ads. Fortunately, we don't want to do that, and that hasn't proven to work that well. Maybe it works well for like the New York Times or for us to select, or the FT or select sort of publishers, but mainly that doesn't work. People want a free internet. If you have a free internet, you've got to have ads. So the big change, sorry, I was giving the whole history of the internet. The big change is cookies going away.
What's one thing that you would suggest that business owners, with regards to marketing, start doing now that maybe you see a lot of businesses that just don't even have a clue about it or don't appreciate how important it is?
I think it's just about understanding the customer and being customer centric. I think that's the one overarching principle that will help guide you at everything else. I can talk about all sorts of tips and tricks and hacks or whatever you want to say about digital marketing, but I think if you, especially as a business owner, because you're not paid to understand marketing necessarily, or to be understanding Google ads or social media, you're going to pay someone for that. You're going to have a member of staff. But if you're in charge of the business overall, then you should have a clear idea of who your audience is, who you're trying to reach, what you're trying to tell them. That should be kind of core, I suppose, to your understanding of your own business. And you should be able to convey that to your marketers, to your digital marketers, to whoever you need to speak to. So if you've got a clear idea of that and you can sort of translate it through your marketing, I think that's the most important thing. You just got to have something to look at all the time. So when you say, when your social media person comes to LinkedIn in the morning or to Instagram, if they know what the company's trying to achieve, even on a quarterly basis, maybe what the thing is this month or whatever, there's a plan there. That helps them. They can say, well, this is right because we're trying to reach these people. This is not right because that is not what those people are interested in. So you need to just have that measure. And I guess above and beyond that, digital marketing is all about measurement. So as long as you're measuring, make sure you've got that conversion tracking, make sure you're collecting the data, make sure you've got goals. If you've got goals and you're collecting outcomes and you're measuring things, then you can't go wrong. You can see whether things are generating an ROI, but just don't stick out loads of advertising and say our metric is clicks or impressions, because that's not a real metric.
All makes sense. And again, it's something that's been echoed. So if you're listening along to this and you've been rolling your eyes when it's been said in the past episode, now's the time to start listening. And absolutely, Barney, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Lots and lots of gems from across the digital marketing spectrum there. If people want to know more about Bluebell or they want to reach out to you, what are the best methods to contact you?
Yeah, so my website is bluebell.marketing. It is the web address. It's got my email and stuff and way to contact me there. Or find me on LinkedIn, Barney Durrant. I'm really happy to connect to people.
Perfect. Thank you very much for coming along, being an excellent guest on the show, Barney. And if you're a member of the audience who's been watching along to the show, thank you as well for making this possible. We're always open to new guests, ideas for guests, future topics and themes. If you've got any ideas, feel free to reach out. Contact details are at the bottom of each podcast, and I'll make sure Barney's details are in there. Thank you again, Barney, for being a fantastic guest.
Thanks so much, Paul. Thanks for inviting me on.
Awesome. We will see you next week on MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers.
Thanks for joining us for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to feature on a future show, or you've got some ideas for folks who would make a great guest, please drop us a line. Contact details are in the show notes, and I'd love to hear from you. Your host today was me, Paul Banks, founder at Javelin Content Management. Here at Javelin, we specialise in helping busy business owners just like you to repurpose video content, taking all the stress and tech problems away and turning your long-form video into literally hundreds of pieces of content without breaking the bank. We describe it as getting ideas out of your head into video and out to your socials. If you want to launch your personal brand, become the vendor of choice for your audience, or maximise your sales revenue impact, we'd love to hear from you. Join us next Wednesday for the next episode, and don't forget to subscribe and give us a review. Our podcast is only possible with your continued support.